Hey, welcome back, everybody, as we gather around the table with South County Outreach, where we take you on a journey deep into the heart of our organization's mission to combat poverty and uplift our community with the man who is tasked with doing it all, Laval Brewer. How are you, sir?
I'm doing really well, and yourself?
I'm doing good. We missed you for a while. You were on a sabbatical, and then I think you were somewhere else, and you're just always it's like chasing where is Waldo in the world here.
You know, as long as you can find me.
We find you, Jay.
Yeah.
Who'd you bring with you? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you about Russ in just a second, but, you say sabbatical, and this is not part of what we're talking about today, but I took 6 weeks off, primarily because this time last year, I recognized that I had been going like 100% for 4 years, from the beginning of the pandemic through last year this time. Yeah. And it was the fastest 4 years of a nonprofit's my career. You start something and you kind of get into something, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's been a year. And I looked up, and it was the first time I looked up, and it was 2.5 years. It was almost 3 years, and I was like, oh no. This is my first time kind of looking up and kind of taking a step back. So I recognized that I had been going really, really hard, and Russ and I have talked about just how I take care of myself, because Russ was a good friend of mine. I'll explain that a little more. And I was like, oh, I need to do something different, and I need to slow down. I need to rest. I need to stop. Biblically, I need to rest. I need to stop. And I actually saw a lot of, I was reading in my Bible study, it kept saying rest, rest. And I was like, okay, you're trying to tell me something. Let me not make you force me into rest, which we know that could happen. But back to what we're really talking about.
Well, even God had to take a day off.
He did. He did. We can talk about that later. That may be a different podcast. I'm happy to do it. But as you know, I'm Laval Brewer, and this podcast is not just about showcasing our work. It's about inviting you, our listeners, to join us in our mission by offering a sneak peek into the values that shape our poverty prevention efforts. We hope to inspire you to become more involved in creating positive change in our community. And today, I have my good friend Russ Cline with me. Russ, how are you?
I am good. It's great to be with you today.
Yeah, I asked how are you, but we've been talking for about 15 minutes before we get started. But you have to do that in the podcast.
That's right.
You got to say how are you. So Russ I've known Russ for 3 of the 4 years that I've been here. One of our partners, one of our donors, and one of my coaches around fundraising recommended you as an executive coach for me to help me kind of get my mind right. Not that it was wrong, but get my mind right as a leader of our organization, so that I'm well when I come in every day to work, and the organization is well. And you helped me kind of set on a path to where I was focused on myself, which is some people will say you should do that, and some people will say no, you shouldn't focus on yourself. But the reality is that I think what we've talked about is that leaders who don't pay attention to themselves, take care of themselves, take care of their families, are going to eventually not be great leaders, because they're going to have things come apart. So Russ has been an instrumental person in my life.
Thank you.
Russ, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
It is.
So I was a nonprofit leader a long time ago, and I hit some crisis and needed to take care of my soul a little bit, and that kind of led me on a journey of understanding leadership and understanding how to take care of people, and realizing the effect that does have on organizations. So I began coaching executives, and it came out of the work I was doing on myself, and learning how do I last, how do I grow my influence and my impact, and identifying some things I needed to do personally to grow in that. Started doing that with international leaders and leaders here in our country, but really my career was mostly out of this country for years and years. And in 2010, we moved back to the United States and began doing some coaching and leadership stuff. And I now currently have a couple roles. One is I lead a couple of international leadership communities, primarily with nonprofit leaders that are doing incredible things all over the globe. And I get to watch them, cheer them on. And much like, you and my conversation, how do I help them be more effective? And a lot of that work is helping them thrive as leaders. And then second, I lead an organization here called the Barnabas Group. It's a group of business leaders, primarily here in Orange County, who care about the world. They care about what God's doing around the world. And my job is to introduce them to nonprofit organizations where they can get involved. But we don't lead with finance. Where a lot of people, it's easy to write a check. We say these business leaders have experience and they have passion and they have talents and they have skills, and if we can get them to engage with nonprofit leaders and organizations, it'll help scale their impact. And so we basically, it's kind of like Shark Tank for nonprofits. We connect and introduce our community, which is a membership partnership community. We connect them to nonprofits all over the globe, and I've been leading that for the last couple of years, and we're having a blast. Just getting people involved and telling people, man, you have some skills and abilities that will move the needle forward with some organizations, and I get to help connect those dots.
Well, that thanks for talking about Barnabas, because that's where this conversation between the two of us today kind of got sparked up.
Yeah.
So, like we said, I've known you for a while. You've known me for a while.
Yeah.
I was talking to my good friend Jeff Gibson, who is a consultant for the Table Group. And he mentioned Barnabas when I was talking to him a couple of months ago, and I said, Barnabas, he goes, yeah, I'm working on a Barnabas Group up in San Francisco. And I was like, well, I know someone who's a leader in Barnabas. And he goes, you need to get involved about. And it's like, let me reach back out to Russ. And I reached out to you, and you're like, yeah, we have a group coming up in a couple of days, and you want to join? You want to visit? I was like, absolutely, because something's telling me I need to be there. And sure enough, we're at this meeting. I see my good friend Bill Bracken. I see some other people. I see some people from my church. I see people from churches support us. And then you start talking about the work that was going to happen and the investment that people were doing. But you also brought up this thing about hospitality. And this book that you were reading on unreasonable hospitality.
Yep.
And it struck a chord. It was like, oh, that's us. Like, that's us. What I mean by that's us, that's South County Outreach. That is our market, the client choice market we have. And I was like, I need to read that. And as we talked about earlier, I started reading this book. Actually, I started listening, because I'm a better listener than I am a reader. And I was like, restaurant. And I was like, that isn't what. Am I going to be able to make this connection? Like, am I going to actually make this connection? And then we were talking, and I made the connection because our hospitality is our hospitality. We'll talk about that. But I was happy to be watching The Bear with my wife, and you talked about this book being in The Bear and this shift in hospitality. And as I was watching The Bear, I was realizing, like, oh, they realize that it's about the people that are coming into the restaurant. It's not necessarily about the food. The food's great, but it's about the people. Tell me more about this unreasonable hospitality and how it fits in the nonprofit sector.
Great. Well, really interesting. The story that I have with this book is it showed up in my mailbox, and just showed up. Someone ordered it for me and sent it to me, and I opened it up. I had no idea who sent it to me. And I said, well, this must be something I'm supposed to read. So I start reading it. I get sucked into it immediately. And again, it's about a restaurant. I thought, I'm an avid reader. I love leadership books. And so I'm reading it going, what's in here for me? And the more I got into it, I start taking notes, and I start making a list of, wow, this is something I've done or experienced, or this is something I want to do. And all of a sudden, all the stuff on here talks about this restaurant story, which is Will Guidara. He kind of tells the story of 11 Madison Park and the best restaurant in the world at the time, and how they position themselves for that. So it's a great restaurant story. If you're a foodie and into restaurants, you're going to love this book.
You are.
But the theme of the book is how do you care for people? And really what he talked about was, it's not just caring for your customers, it's also caring for your team. And as I read that, it just kept jumping off the page of how many, especially in the world of nonprofit. And again, this is parallel to every business, every church, every organization, but nonprofits, sometimes we spend so much time focusing on the mission of what it is we're there to do. We're focused on that, and we burn through people. We don't take care of people. We don't value people. And even our clients. Sometimes we look at our clients as a number or a data point or someone, and we want to get them through that touch point as quick and easy as we can. We don't value who they are. This book is about the simple things, and it's not about spending a lot of money and being crazy. The title's unreasonable, But the idea is just, for me, it's got to be intentional. It doesn't just happen. And I've been a part of a community of leaders, and we've done some of these things for almost 20 years. And when I read the book, I said, wow, I understand how this works and why we do it. So I finally figured out who sent me the book. I called him, thanked him for it, and then I became an evangelist, and I began sharing this book with people. But at Barnabas, often what I do at Barnabas is, besides coming and presenting organizations, I also just share, hey, here's something I'm learning.
Yeah.
And so when I stood up, I was like, man, I'm learning about hospitality, but really my message was, we're a membership organization. I want people to come in the room. I want them to feel valued. I want them to feel like they're seen. I want them to feel like they belong. I want them to feel like when they're missed that we do care. And so for me, I'm reading this, talking to myself, going, what can I do to show people hospitality? Because you know what? I love it when people act that way. I was telling you a story earlier about standing at a restaurant recently, and a service personnel comes out and says, hey, can I give you a cup of coffee? It was out of the realm of what she needed to do, but brought me a cup of coffee at 7 a.m. I'm standing on the sidewalk, and that little act, how that made me feel, the loyalty to the restaurant, the care. We all need that. We long for that. And man, in the nonprofit world, we have so many opportunities for it, and I think we miss it.
Well, you're a plant. I'm just gonna say you're a plant. We choose our guests because they help illustrate this piece. And I'm gonna pick up on one thing we do in the market that illustrates that. As you know, we have a client choice market. People can shop for themselves. We treat adults like adults, and sometimes when shoppers are going through, they will have conversations with us. Actually, often they'll have conversations. And every once in a while, you'll see someone who's having a conversation with a shopper. We call them shoppers inside the market. And they will stop that conversation and they will go like directly towards something. Now, there are times when nonprofits, you see that and you're kind of like, ooh, what are they about to do? Like, what's the volunteer about to do? Are they about to give them something that they shouldn't have? That's the other conversation. Like, are they about to, pull something that is a good thing for them? Are they about to tell on them? What's supposed to happen? But in our market, every time I see that happen, like something good's about to happen. I mean, it like in my head, something good's about to happen. Oftentimes it is, yeah, we're having a birthday party for my grandma and blah, 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 blah. And our team will be like, you having a birthday party? Look in the basket. There's no birthday cake. They're going to go look for a birthday cake. They're going to go look for some cupcakes. They're going to go look for something that's going to bring joy to that family that the family could have done themselves. They could have picked up a birthday cake if there was one. They could have done something that would create joy for the family, but they didn't. And we look and we go, you didn't do that. We're going to do it for you. Which goes back to the bear, goes back to this unreasonable hospitality. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times. But you said something that I think that I had to write it down. I mean, because the only reason I wrote it down is because I know it and I just want to make sure I say it correctly. We want people to feel valued. We want people to see seen. We want people to belong, and we want people to be missed. Exactly. I mean, for a nonprofit like ours that is giving away free food to people who are struggling, the last thing we think about is we want you to be valued. Yeah. We want you to be seen. We want you to belong, and we want you to be missed. And because what we're supposed to be doing, supposed to be thinking about is, how much food can we get to you right now? Can we pay your rent? Like, can we solve the transactional nature that you need right this minute? And yes, we can. But can we do it in a way that is so unreasonable, in a sense that is so out there that we delight people? And we don't have to.
Right.
And we don't have to delight people. We could do it the way we do it, but we literally want people to be delighted. It brings us our volunteers joy. It brings our clients this joy, and it brings this dignity that comes to them because you're like, wow, you're treating me like I'm a customer. We sure are. Because just because you're low income and you can't afford to buy your own food doesn't mean that you should feel like you're low income and you can't afford to buy your own food. Like, there's no reason for you to have to do that. We say pretty regularly, when you leave the market, you don't pay with your dignity. Like we don't dip into your dignity on the way out.
Right.
It is, hey, love you, see you next time, be safe. Can I help you with anything? It's a totally different way of treating people, and I think you're spot on as it relates to our industry. Often is trying to solve something, and they realize they miss the fact that they could solve other things.
Well, those words,
Uh-huh.
the reason I share those words is because that's what I want. I want to be valued. I want to be seen. I want to belong. I want to be missed. I mean, it's a basic need we all have. And why would we think it's different for someone who's low income or someone's living in a crisis situation? They're the same needs universally. You can go to the wealthiest person in our county; they would have those same needs. And so the idea is we're humans, and we all have some of those needs. How do we address those needs? And I think we can be used as incredible agents of change and agents of hospitality by just being aware of that. And I mean, the reason I share those words is because those are my words. That's what I need, and that's what I want.
We talked about this earlier, not necessarily these words, but when I used to work for the YMCA, a membership organization, belonging was critical. Yeah. Like if you didn't feel like you belonged to the organization, to the YMCA, you weren't going to be a member. And oftentimes the reason why people belonged was because they were seen, right? And they were missed. Same with my church. When I was on the membership committee at our church, and we said, well, what do we need to do? And we were talking about, we need to do orientation, this and that. And I remember I said, we need to make sure that people feel missed if they're not there. If they don't show up to church for a couple of times, we got to notice that. Yeah. We've got to, somehow we got to have a system for noticing that. And then we need to genuinely lean into those people to say, hey, we miss you. Everything going okay. An extra step that is really hard to do. Like it's not. I'm not saying this is easy,
right?
But it's a really difficult thing to do. And when I think about the work we do, that step is a luxury.
Yep.
But what I've found is that step that we're using around those four things, and the environment that we create, and the people that we create, that it creates ease for us to do our work. Right. You mentioned one other thing. You talked about the employees. The people who make this happen. And you're a leadership coach. You do this for a living. How do you help leaders like me and others understand and then create space for that hospitality for their team?
Well, again, it's not easy, but the illustration you were just talking about is how do you identify that people are missed? Is you can't do that on your own. You can't think of a membership organization. You can't know and understand what's going on. You got to create a system that's in place so that people can help you do that. But what I've learned, and I think this is true on any theme, even beyond hospitality, is your team, your employees, they have to experience what it is you're trying to help other people experience. So it's got to pass through them. We were talking earlier about service, that service mentality, and you can't just expect someone to do it if you're not doing it for yourself. So if I'm the leader, if I'm not bending over to pick up the trash on the sidewalk, right, how am I ever going to expect my staff to do that? And then how will I ever expect the clients to do that? So it's that trickle down mentality. And so I often tell, especially nonprofit leaders, it's true in business leaders too, your number one customer is your team.
Yep.
And so the more you pour into them, you build and nurture that culture. In this book, they talk about the restaurant. It was, we're going to model this for our team, and then our team is going to do it for the customers. Because, Will Gadara as a manager, he couldn't do it all. Well, that's that trickle down idea of I'm going to, so my right now I work in I lead a nonprofit, Barnabas, and I look at some of my team is my board. My team is the people that help us do this. So how do I serve them? How do I model for them? How do I show them how I want all of us to be treating our partners, the people that are part of our organization? And so it's that trickle down mentality. But a lot of it is creating systems, because you can't do it all. You're going to miss it. You can't carry it all on your own. So you got to get people to come alongside and help you lift that.
I have two visuals of that right this minute. And these are other leaders that I've watched, and I now implement that. Way back in my YMCA days, when I was a staff person, and we were at camp, or we were doing something out in the community, or even in the YMCA. I remember Dave Brankineer, who's a good friend of mine. Dave Brancanier would walk and he would pick up trash. Now, he was a leader. He did not have to do that. And he didn't say to anyone else, you need to pick up trash. But as he was walking by, if he walked past a piece of trash, he'd pick it up. And he was doing something, he would clean up on the way there. And he's like, leave the place better. And he would say, leave the place better than you found it. Which his actions were so much more powerful than him saying, hey, everyone, leave the place better than you found it. And if I don't know what that means, I don't know what that looks like, then I'm like, okay, well, I know what is it? Clear example. The second was I was with Doug Roush, who's the president of Daily Table in Boston. They're a nonprofit grocery store serving low-income families with a grocery product. He used to be with Trader Joe's, president of Trader Joe's. And I was visiting Daily Table to kind of learn how they were doing their work and what was happening. And as I'm with him and his COO, and we're walking through their market, which looks like a Trader Joe's, he stops talking for a second, and his counterpart, who's with me, picks up the conversation. And as I'm turning to talk to the guy with the conversation, I'm not noticing what Doug does. Doug just kind of trails off. Next thing I know, he's talking to one of the team members in the building, and then as he's coming back, he is repositioning all the food on the shelves and in the icebox. I start talking to Doug again, and as I talk to Doug, the guy I was talking to, he turns and starts repositioning all of the cans on the shelf. And they weren't pointing it out; it was just what they do. Right. It's
natural.
Natural. Now, what did that say? They didn't walk over to the kid who's supposed to be repositioning the shelves. They just started doing it. Yeah. They led and led. I came back and I immediately, without even recognizing it, started doing the exact same thing. Right? Started doing walk around the shelves around. I just started doing the shelves. I now notice that everyone does that. Right? So leading by example is
well, and that's actually setting the culture. I had a similar experience. I'm at Chick-fil-A headquarters in Atlanta, and we had a board, we had a day, we were doing some learning on their campus, and we had a meeting with Dan Cathy, then the president of Chick-fil-A, and we ate in the employee dining room. We got up, went to the corporate office, the executive offices, and we're waiting for Dan Cathy to show up, and he's late. And, we have an agenda, we have a schedule. It's like, hey, we had this time set up, what's going on? He finally shows up, apologizes for being late, then is super welcoming and answers questions, and we got a photo. It was a great moment. And as we're walking out, I asked someone, what happened? Why was he late? He says, he clears the table for the employees in their eating space. I said, so the reason he was late for us is because he's clearing the table for his employees in the dining room? Yes. I said, does he do that often? Every day. And I just I sat back and went, okay, quit whining about someone being late. But what does that say when the president CEO is clearing off trays, but he's also talking to people, he's learning their names, he's connecting with them, and it's a culture of that service. And again, you go Chick-fil-A, they've learned how to take that culture from a chain in Atlanta and trickle it through their entire organization, and you get that same level of care from every employee. So
it's incredible. And that's another example of where for us, while we desire our clients to not actually need us, but they do need us, and they're here. And when they're here, we're going to treat them like they're shoppers.
Sure.
Like we're going to treat you like you're a shopper. In our homeless prevention work, we're going to treat you like you're a client who is looking for a loan or looking for a checking account. We're going to treat you with this level of connection that is going to help you be successful. Not like, okay, well, we don't trust you. We need this. Like we need some backup. But the reality is, you don't need to feel like I distrust you or I don't like you. And how do you do that? Like you said, we have to have team members who embody the work that we do, and that comes from me and my direct reports, kind of leaning in on people and making sure they feel good. I'll give you another example of the contrast, and this is a little bit of a brag, but I'll just let it go. I was teaching a class at the nonprofit network in Long Beach last week, and I was talking about my team, and I was talking about in particular one of my team members, and they were like, "How do we get a Lauren?" And I was like, "Well, you have to nurture Lauren, and Lauren's one of my team members." But I was talking about like the culture and how we do things. We're like, so, and one of them said, "So what do you do? Like, how have you done this?" And I said, "Well, on Friday afternoons at 1:30, everyone walks out of the building," and they all looked at me and like, "What do you mean?" What do you mean every Friday afternoon everyone walks out of the building at 1:30? I go, well, we have a 37 and a half hour work week. And I go, let me tell you why. Because you don't just switch to a 37 and a half hour work week just because. Like, it's because Monday through Thursday, they're working with clients 8 hours and they're working hard. And they're driving at the outcomes we need them to have. And then Friday, we have less client activity. And in actuality, there's nothing really happening after 1:30 on Friday. So I could keep you there for an extra 2.5 hours, right? And you can find something to do. And there will be something to do. But the difference is when you leave at 1:30 on a Friday, I don't care who you are. Especially if you're a low-income person or you're a entry-level person or a mid-manager. Being off at 1:30 on a Friday,
It's a good day.
It brings joy to the body. It brings joy to the heart. You can get out of town. You can go visit your friends, whatever that may be. And why? Because they could be helping clients, yeah. But they also show up back on Monday, bright and early, refreshed and ready to go, and they do 4 full days of hard work. And I'm not saying they don't work hard on Friday, but just stopping to say, how do we help our team be as successful as they possibly can? And one of the things was, we're in a hard business with hard interactions. Let's make sure their soul is rebuilt at the end of the week.
Yep.
Like, what does that mean? And you could see these leaders go, well, why? How can we get everyone to do that? I'm like, you sure can. You just have to be intentional about what does it mean for you and us to do this work, and how do I help you be as successful as possible, which in some cases is unreasonable.
Right.
It is unreasonable. Like, no, you should have them work 40 hours a week. Sure, but they work 37 and a half, and they get as much done as you do in 40 hours a week.
And I would just say that's an incredible thing. What a huge thing for South County to do that. I would also just add that to make people feel that way, it doesn't always have to be a huge thing. It could be a little thing. Mm-hmm. And so if you're unable to say we're going to do 37 hours a week just because of your industry or whatever you're doing, there are ways to deliver that to people. I mean, it could be showing up with ice cream. It could be. I mean, yesterday I had a meeting, and it's part of a CEO forum that I'm a part of, and once a month we get together. It's a great day. Yesterday, instead of sitting in a boardroom, we got on a Duffy boat, and then had a great lunch. It felt great. It was relaxing. It was rewarding. It was what a great way to spend a summer day instead of in a meeting. I walked out going, man, I love this community. I love this group. There's value in this. And so there's little things you can do that re-emphasize those same values. That's incredible, though, to understand the weight of the work and to be able to compensate for that. What you're buying is you're buying culture and ownership, and I mean you're creating fans because you're taking care of them.
Yeah,
Again, we all want to be taken care of, right?
Yeah. I'll give you one last thing, and we're going to go to the last part. But on that line, one of the things that we've started doing is once a quarter we do a volunteer project at another organization that we love. And I couldn't do this one because I was out of town, but my team went to Second Harvest Food Bank, which is a huge partner of ours. They make our lives just incredibly better. And a small group of them went and did what we do normally at our location: pack boxes, create opportunity for people to do work. And they came back not just saying, hey, we need to do this like Second Harvest. They came back saying, I feel really good that we helped other nonprofit pantries who need this work. We believe that let people have that same type of joy, because not everyone is going to be jazzed up about our food program as a staff person. They might have other interests that help them do that work. If a company can do that, why can't we?
Right. Yep.
So, all right, well, we're at the end. So we have these 3 questions for you that we always end up with.
All right.
So I know we got them for you. So the closing is a speed round, and the questions are: who influences you? Your favorite food from childhood, and who would you like to sit with around the table? So we take them one at a time.
All right. Who influences me?
Yeah.
So I would say one of the top influences right now, I love business stories. I love reading biographies. I love reading business stories. I listen faithfully to podcasts like How I Built This that just tell stories of successful businesses. So I try to learn from leaders. So Patrick Lencioni is one of my all-time favorite authors. Andy Stanley is a speaker and a leader and a communicator that I think really highly of. John Maxwell. There's a number of leaders, but like Will Guidara, this book, Stephen Covey. I learn a lot from people that have gone before me, and I'm continuing to learn because I will never arrive and will never have it all together.
Oh, those are some of the great ones. I love the Andy Stanley podcast.
Yeah.
Patrick Lencioni obviously is a favorite of mine. Okay, so favorite food from childhood.
All right. So my favorite food is actually it's not just a childhood favorite food, it's a current favorite food, ceviche de camarón. It's a shrimp ceviche. I like an Ecuadorian brand of ceviche. You put like a corn nut in a tostada, and you put popcorn in it. It's cold, and it's awesome.
Oh my God.
One of the best meals on the planet. Shrimp. It's like a shrimp cocktail, but between a cocktail and a soup, it's just an incredible.
And where do you get this?
So I like it from Ecuador, but Peru has great ceviche. Mexico, different parts of Mexico has great ceviche. I'll eat it wherever I can, but my favorite all time is a little place called Rumiñahui's in Ecuador.
I do not travel nearly
There you go.
enough. I do not travel nearly enough. I'm going to get on the Russ Cline travel book, and I'm going to follow.
It'll
you.
change your life.
I appreciate that. Okay, so last one. Who would you like to sit around the table with?
You know, I was thinking about this question this morning as I was driving, and I've got some people that have been mentors in my life that are still living that I haven't seen in a long time. And I thought about people like Coach Howard, who's a high school basketball coach. I thought about a guy named Bill Jones, who gave me one of my first jobs. I thought of a guy named Guy, who was a coach and mentor to me through college. I thought of a woman named Carolyn, who really was a leadership coach for me. And I would love to pull those people together and not to say, hey, look at who I am, but just to thank them for investing in my life at different stages of my life. I have a mentor, a guy named Jim, who he's been a mentor for over 35 years, continues to invest in my life on a regular basis. And I think I want to show them appreciation. I'd love to have them come for a meal, serve them some great ceviche, and let them know how much I care, and I'm grateful for them.
You just sparked an idea in me, and I can't wait to talk to some people that have influenced my life like that. You just reminded me of a good friend of mine who just passed away, Tisha De Felice, who changed my life. Former mentor Eric Mann, who's the YMCA leader in Florida. Alan Hostrip, who just poured into my life, and there are many others. I'm leaving people out, but you just sparked some interest in what we're gonna do. So, hey, thanks for coming, brother. I really
Great
appreciate
to be with you.
Yeah, you're just every time I sit with you, my cup is filled, and as we talk about it, gets to pour over into others. So I appreciate all the wisdom that you impart on me.
Well, and I would just say to you, I mean, the work you're doing is valuable, and you have an opportunity and a position to shower the people that work with you with hospitality, and then to see that trickle into all the clients that you serve. So I believe God's using you in incredible ways, and you're making a difference. So keep doing what you're doing, and man, it's a thrill to be here with you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you, buddy.
All
right, so thanks a lot. Thank you for listening, and we hope you and your friends join us next time around the table as we continue to explore the intersection of food, people, and culture. See you later.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to join us as we gather around the table. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.